Hello and welcome everyone to Ravished, a romance novel and movie review podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Nick.
And I'm Donna. Nick, this week has been crazy with so many things happening. I mean, we lost the one and only Olivia Newton John.
Sandy. Oh, Sandy. I just remember her from Grease. I love her. And I'll tell you what, right now, I still listen to all of her songs, like her music. I love it. Her voice is just angelic. But that's so sad.
I know. And it was so unexpected just seeing it. I was just like, no, not Olivia Newton John. Let's get physical, you know? I mean, just Grease was iconic for me. And I grew up, 20 years after it was even created. She was awesome. R.I.P. Yeah. On top of that tragedy, we're also dealing with monkeypox that's literally taking over the world. What the heck? This disease is terrifying, and what it does to people, it's so sad. Have you seen the pictures?
No.
Oh my gosh. It's terrifying. You don't want to get it.
I watched a video. It was a doctor talking about it, and he said there's actually 30,000, I think he said 30,000 cases, and he was kind of debunking the whole, it's just rampant only in the gay community or LGBTQ or whatever. It's only because of June was Pride Month or something, and everybody was together
for all the parades and stuff. Yeah, that's
exactly. And, so it came out in what's the month before May? It came out in May, I guess. But really, he said it actually was discovered in Israel and East Africa back in 2016 and 17. So it's not really new.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's you get sores or something or spots, and it's yucky.
Yeah, it's really.
So everybody be careful. I mean, did we not learn anything, from what?
Right. Yeah, and it's prolonged touching and intimate touching is what spreads it. It doesn't just live the flu or other bacteria where you sneeze and it goes everywhere. This apparently doesn't transmit that way. So please be careful. When people want to shake your hand, don't shake it. Nah, bro, I'm good. I don't get why people want to touch.
Elbow bump.
Right? When I don't know you, why don't you think I want to touch you?
Yeah, I mean, I still touch, but I have hand sanitizer everywhere.
Yeah, wash your hands. Be clean. Be careful. Be safe out there.
Yeah. Well, everyone, let's get to it. So, a complete change in our direction this week. We're reviewing an upbeat, cutesy-wootsy flick from the early 2000s, and it makes us laugh and cry. It is Bridget Jones' Diary.
Yay! One of the best romantic comedies I can recall. It's not campy like we've done in the past, or it's not unrealistic with body standards where you have, a 95-pound, 6-foot-tall, all-leg supermodel trying to convince us she's hideous and unlovable only because she wears glasses, and then has this hottie McHottie love interest. It's the characters seem very real. You could have met them on the street. Even though the actors are super famous megastar actors, the way they portrayed these characters, it just seemed like they were real people.
Yeah, they definitely got down to earth with these character roles, and they're very relatable. Even a lot of things that she has felt about herself or thought, it's stuff I've thought about, is this me?
Definitely. Very relatable. And the best part of it all, it's actually funny. It's literally laughing out loud. and not just like, oh, that's funny. No, you're like dying laughing at these scenes in this movie.
Oh, yeah. I was definitely laughing so much throughout the film. Like, I had to watch it twice. I didn't want to miss anything. I could have watched it 3 times, honestly. It's so good, but it was actually adapted from a book, and it was written in 1996 by Helen Fielding. And in addition to its sequel in 1999, Bridget Jones' The Edge of Reason, and the third installment, 2013's Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy. And all these books were made into movies and themselves hold critical acclaim, and they've sold almost like 20 million copies combined.
I mean, bravo, Helen. Thank you for creating such an incredible character in Bridget. I need to read these books ASAP. I unfortunately have not ever read any of them, but I am such a huge fan of all 3 of these movies. I watched the 3rd movie because that was the only other one on Netflix, and it was so funny. I was crying laughing at, like, they all held up. So I know the books are going to be probably just as good.
If not better. Me too. I want to read the book, and I didn't know that they were books until you told me like a week ago or something. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know. I knew about the 3rd movie, did not know about the 2nd movie. I've never watched the 3rd one, but I'm the kind, I like to, not skip ahead. I'm just, I don't really like surprise. I mean, yeah, I don't like surprises like that.
No, yeah, and I recommend all of the movies.
Yeah. So, here we go. So, meet Bridget Jones, a 30-something singleton who's certain she would have all the answers if she could. She's obsessed with losing 7 pounds, stopping smoking, and developing inner poise. And as she says, like she's reading from her diary, 129 pounds. How was it possible to put on 4 pounds in the middle of the night? Could flesh have somehow solidified, becoming denser and heavier? Repulsive, horrifying notion. Alcohol units, 4. Excellent. Cigarettes, 21. Poor, but we'll give up totally tomorrow. Number of correct lottery numbers, 2. Better, but nevertheless useless.
Bridget Jones's Diary is the devastatingly self-aware, laugh-out-loud daily chronicle of Bridget's permanent, doomed quest for self-improvement. A year in which she resolves to reduce the circumference of each thigh by 1.5 inches, visit the gym 3 times a week, not just to buy a sandwich, form a functional relationship with an adult, and learn to program the VCR. VCRs, those dinosaurs. Over the course of the year, Bridget loses a total of 72 pounds, but gains a total of 74. She remains, however, optimistic through it all. Through it all, Bridget will have you helpless with laughter, and like millions of readers around the world, you'll find yourself shouting, "Bridget Jones is me!"
Yep, like I said.
Right? I did read some of the book reviews, and of course, you know, the book differs from the movie, but generally follows the same story, just obviously some plot points are different. And I mean, is there anything more relatable than losing 72 pounds only to gain 74?
Every year.
Right? So the movie opens to Bridget at her mother's famous turkey curry buffet get-together. Yuck. What the hell is that?
I'd eat it.
This is another way for her mother to attempt to set her up so she doesn't spend the rest of her life as a lonely spinster. Thanks, Mama.
Yeah, at the party, the turkey curry buffet, her mother introduces her to a dashing British man by the name of Mock Darcy, or Mark Darcy.
For us Americans.
Yeah, that's my best British accent for his name, Mock Darcy.
And we will be calling him Mock Darcy for the entirety of this episode.
Yeah, we are. Sorry. But So he's a bit of snobbish and haughty with a kind of, yeah, like he's really kind, but he has like a cautionary presence. You know, he's very observative and stuff. And the meeting of these two in the beginning, it wasn't the greatest, to say the least. And even their next couple instances together wasn't really great.
Oh, yeah. Very yikes. Bridget definitely failed friendly banter with strangers while she was growing up. She tries to lighten the mood and definitely puts her foot in her mouth when she's having her first conversation with him, because he doesn't appreciate her humor at all. Like, she just keeps digging that hole and making it more and more awkward. And while she's filling her plate, she's behind Mock and his mother. And she hears him telling his mom how he doesn't want anything to do with her, and like just putting her down on all these different qualities, and it's so humiliating, and she hears every single word.
Yeah, and that like really tore up her ego, you know. And what does Miss Bridget Jones do? Pray tell, Lassie.
I think Lassie's like Scottish. Okay, so after this after this humiliating set down, the movie changes to Bridget alone in her apartment, deciding if she wants to end up alone and eaten by dogs, because, you know, that's the only choice you have if you don't get married. All while all while drinking alcohol and singing the classic All by myself. No, I can't sing. By the extraordinary.
That was really good.
By the extraordinary Celine Dion, hero, national or worldwide treasure.
I think she has the most amazing voice in the whole world. She's number one.
For real.
But after this meltdown, we see her heading to work, which is Pemberley Publishing House, and we're introduced to her boss, and he's one of her love interests named Daniel Cleaver. He's good looking, very confident, and she doesn't mind having a mild flirtation with him.
And I just want to say, it was so relatable. Her singing sadly by herself to some slow jam that makes you even more sad. Like, been there, girl. Where you're just crying, like, pathetic and sadly. But, I mean, it's cathartic. I've done it. Okay, so anyways, Bridget, goes into work hungover one day, and she's wearing this extremely short skirt when, out of nowhere, Daniel instant messages her on her work computer. In case you're young, born before like 1996 or after 1996 and don't know what instant messaging is, it's how everybody used to talk. But Daniel messages her out of the blue, and she thinks he's about to, you know, fuss at her for being so late, but really he messages her this pervy text saying, you know, oh, is your skirt out sick today?
Yeah, and then from there the emails get raunchier, and then they're in the elevator together, and this is her boss, and he puts his hand on her bottom, and you know, that's definitely not something we'd hopefully see nowadays in the office, but it seemed like she pretty much liked it, even though she was shocked.
Yeah, because he's, you know, so good looking, and she doesn't really have the highest perception of herself. But anyways, Daniel keeps asking her to hang out with him, but she refuses. And then one day her work is hosting this book launch party, and she has to go introduce one of her bosses. So she shows up, but who does she run into at this event? Why, it's Mock Dawsey. so random of him to be there. And of course, you know, she completely embarrasses herself while doing the introduction of her boss. And then, you know, Mock is a jerk. And he doesn't have very good social, like, interaction skills either. That's what I'm assuming. But he's there, and it's so funny watching her blow this introduction up of her boss. And then she notices Daniel and Mock have this, like, weird tension between them.
Yeah, and just to clear things up for everyone listening, when we say boss, we don't mean Daniel Cleaver. It's another...
Oh, yeah. Mr.
guy.
Tits Pervert.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not 8.
I'm trying to think of his name.
It's Fitzherbert. But he's like a pervert who always looks at her boobs, so she calls him Tits Pervert in her head.
Yeah. Perfect. So, and to heal her bruised pride, Daniel Cleaver offers to take her to dinner. And then while at dinner, she confronts him in his awkward behavior towards Mock Dawsey at the book launch. And he tells her that Mock Dawsey was his best friend from Cambridge and that Mock ended up sleeping with Daniel. Whoops. I need one of those pop things. Daniel's fiance, and broke his heart.
So Bridget, you know, is completely on Daniel's side. She feels so bad that Mr. High and Mighty Mock Dawsey would do such a terrible thing, but around her he acts like he's kind of better than her and talks down to her, you know. So she's like, this guy slept with his best friend's fiance and he has the audacity to treat me like this.
Yeah, she doesn't like him. She's under the impression that he's, like I said, just haughty Mr. Perfect and looks down on people and stuff. And he really does kind of come across that in the beginning, and you're not sure about him. But anyway, does she have a surprise in store for her? So Daniel might not be all that he's cracked up to be, but we'll see.
Yeah, throughout the rest of the film, we see more interactions with Daniel and Mock that are very awkward and clearly uncomfortable for both of them. More so for Mark.
Yeah, lots of... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Like, Mark's like, what the heck's going on? Why am I being treated like this with this douchebag, you know?
Yeah.
And there's lots of tension, and of course Bridget thinks she knows why, but you'll have to watch to find out.
And unfortunately, throughout all the scenes, you know, we get to witness Bridget, who's really kind of falling for Daniel and thinking he takes her seriously. She walks in and finds him with a naked woman in his apartment.
Oh my gosh. It was so awful. Like, the heartache Bridget must have felt, you know, seeing her there, and then, she utters the most disrespectful thing.
Yeah.
She says, I thought you said she was thin.
When that woman says that, every time I see this movie, my jaw drops like, which? She's so mean, and she's American, so it just makes us all look bad, Americans.
I know, like, jerky American women, you know.
Right.
Like, what? It's not true. Such a bad stigma.
Right.
But, so after that terrible experience, Bridget, she decides she's not going to just give up on herself, you know, and eat all the junk food and become a couch potato. So she goes out and she finds herself a job at a TV station. She starts working out, quitting smoking, quitting drinking. She's doing great for herself. She's feeling good.
Oh, yeah.
And...
yeah, and I just want to hit on, like, her job interview questions. They're so funny. You know, her first interview, they ask her, what do you think of the El Nino phenomenon, which is a weather thing. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's like something to do with the weather. And she thinks he's talking about Latin music. So her response is totally off the mark, and she doesn't get that job. And then her second job is for like a kids network, and they're like, so do you have any kids of your own? And she goes, oh God, no, yuck. So she doesn't get that job.
She's like,
either.
ugh.
Right.
Yeah, you wouldn't get the El Nino job because you didn't know what it was either.
Oh, whatever. I knew it was weather. Not good weather.
But it's a hurricane.
It's not good weather. I know
It's a
that.
hurricane.
Okay. Smarty McSmarty.
They named a hurricane after it.
No,
El
Nikki.
Nino hurricane.
No, that's not what it is.
It's Nick. Thank you very
My
much.
bad, Nicholas.
Nicolette.
It is not.
It's not a hurricane?
No.
Okay, then nobody gets the job.
A good thing we already have jobs. Okay.
Yeah, so moving on. So she finally does nab a job because she told the producer, like she was all real with him. She's like, I needed to quit my job since I shagged my boss. And guess what? He hires her on the spot and says something like, we would never fire you for sleeping with the boss here. That's a matter of principle.
Right. Oh, that's
Like,
such
ew,
high principles.
Creepoid.
Yeah, and
Right.
on her way out of Kimberly Publishing, that's hard to say, after she resigns, Daniel's trying to convince her to stay, and he starts threatening her like, you know, you're supposed to give 6 weeks notice before quitting. That's in your contract. And she loudly lets him and everyone else know that if she had to work within 10 meters of him, she'd rather take a job wiping Saddam Hussein's ass. With an R.
Yeah. Bam.
Yeah, you go, girl.
I love that part. Everybody's looking at her. You know, all the women that work there, they're like, yeah. She's walking out of there, and everyone's like, you go, girl. Like, their faces they're inspired, and they're just, and she's proud of herself. You know, she's got her head held high. You know what I mean? She definitely knew in that situation, like, she said the perfect thing to him at the perfect time.
Right, that's the best feeling when you are, like, in an argument or something. You're like, heck yeah! And not like, dang, I wish I would have said this or that. That would have been cool. But
especially at that moment. I mean, it was her job, you know, her pretty much her livelihood, and she's like, screw this. This ain't worth it. I'm going out, and I'm going to be happy and not have to work for such a prick.
Right? And after she, you know, after this, she happens to have more random run-ins with Mock Dossie, who walks up to her and says such a sweet thing. Like, she'd been needing to hear this from someone her whole life, pretty much. But he tells her,
What does he say?
are you ready? Let me get my British accent together.
Yes.
And I have to sound like him. I like you just the way you are.
Yes, but I think he actually says, I like you just as you are.
Oh, don't talk to me. Okay, here we go. I like you just as you are.
It's so sweet. I mean, especially because she's already so insecure, and she's made a fool out of herself several times, a lot in his presence. So, yeah, but that's whenever I really start liking Mock Dawson.
Oh, I think we all
So-
been like, oh, okay.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, it's occur. Why don't we get into the characters, Donna?
It's Donna. No, I'm just kidding. So obviously there's Bridget Jones, played by spectacularly talented Renee Zellweger. She's a 32-year-old single woman who just cannot say the right thing in literally any situation. And
To save her life.
ever, and tries to say, like, constantly she's trying to lighten the mood with humor, but literally no one appreciates her humor or gets it, so it just is hilarious. She's always trying to commit to quitting smoking, drinking, and to work out and lose weight, and to find an eligible bachelor, or in her own words, you know, in her diary she writes, to not continue to develop an attachment to emotional fuckwits and perverts. you know, what we all dream of.
I love that. And that's such a British thing to say, I think, you know.
We don't know.
How they...
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
Mm.
But she really does an outstanding job and, you know, convincing in the role. It's very convincing. And she delivers all the jokes perfectly. And when she has to do some, like, of the embarrassing scenes, she makes you feel bad because of how real the embarrassment feels. It's so realistic. And stuff that we've been through and that we've felt. And as women, you know, in the whole love relationship game or world or whatever you want to call it. But I mean, overall, she's a really great person. She's just unlucky in love, and above all, she yearns for a love match.
Oh, don't we all? Yeah, a fun fact, Renee actually worked for 3 weeks in a real London publishing office and even lived in London for 3 months to get experience and to work on her accent so she could truly commit to her character. So good job, Renee.
You know, I get so delighted when I hear of actors playing the role, you know, before their script. Like, that's what it takes to embody the character so well, I feel. It's very ingenious, and, you know, as far as her accent goes, like, her lips are huge.
Yeah.
Like, so big. And, like, they're always just look like they're puckered up when she's talking.
Howdy, yeah.
You know? Yes, but you know who she reminds me of, like, for real?
Who?
You'd never guess, but Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh. Okay.
So I know it's really the other way around because Jennifer Lawrence is, like, newer, obviously, but, like, her singing to sad songs or badass motivating songs when she's working out throughout the movie, it reminds me of Jennifer Lawrence in American Hustle and also in Silver Linings Playbook. And honestly, they resemble each other's looks, you know. And I'm just saying, if you like Jennifer Lawrence, everybody, especially in American Hustle, you'll probably like this movie, because I'll tell you what, for that movie, Jennifer Lawrence made it for me.
Yeah, and, you know, Renee Zellweger hasn't been in too much, I don't feel like, in this past decade. She hasn't really done a lot of work, so that's a good, you know, clue for people who've never really seen her work. She's an awesome actress. And going back to Jennifer Lawrence, I really think almost every movie I've seen her in, I'm really impressed. She's such a good actress as well. And the only movie I don't think I've watched and won't watch is called Mother, I'm pretty sure. Because it had, like, really terrible reviews, and I did not understand the premise of the movie by watching the previews. So I'm like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, I remember a little bit. I mean, wasn't that, like, last year or the year before it came out?
No, it was a few years ago because she was engaged to the director, and then she ended up breaking up with him.
Donna, last year or the year before would have been a few years ago.
No, few is 3.
Silly pants.
Get it together.
Okay. Thought it was 2.
Boop.
Sorry. Yeah, so I didn't hear good things about it from, you know, all sides of the aisle either.
Yeah.
So I didn't take time to watch it. But that doesn't mean I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But anyway, so next we have Mock Dawsey, ladies and gentlemen, played by Colin Firth. And as you probably know what he looks like, well, he's tall and lean, and he's, in this movie, he's debonair, and it's apparent he's like a hot commodity to all the single women, being so established, and
because he's a lawyer.
all the friends of Bridget.
Yeah.
Yes. He's like a human rights activist lawyer or something. So, and all Bridget's friends, including the women in her family, they, like, all see him as so strikingly handsome, and I'm like, he okay.
Right. Not my cup of tea, but okay.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah. And then the last of our main characters is Daniel Cleaver, who we mentioned earlier, played by Hugh Grant. He's a bit of a bad boy, of course, and he's really charming and funny. He always wants to have a good time, but is a huge womanizer who leads Bridget astray and then tries to come back to her after breaking her heart. Like, get out of here, guy. one of the rudest things he says to her that I'm sure in his head sounded so sweet was, if I can't make it with you, I can't make it with anyone. Excuse me? Like, no.
Yeah, that was super lame, like lame level 10.
Right? And mean. That's like backhanded. That wasn't a compliment.
Yes, and I'd like to brush on some other fascinating characters in this flick that I really love. So Bridget's mother. She's extremely strange. She's really upfront. She's got a dry humor. She's not even trying to be funny, you know, but she's kind of like a meddling mother trying to get her daughter married so she can have grandchildren as soon as possible. But she also has a side story where she's like, she's not satisfied in her marriage and she takes a break from it to have her own life. Mm-hmm. And that's a whole nother side story that's hilarious and awkward and real.
Yeah.
It's so realistic.
Right. Yeah. And she is a really fun character. And then there's Bridget's group of friends. You know, they commiserate with her, they celebrate her wins, and then they're just so supportive of her, and they have such a strong bond. It just comes across as so realistic. Like, those are the type of friends you would have in your 30s, not the, you know, oh, yeah, the yes friends in your 20s who tell you, yeah, do that, do that, do that. No, these are, like, her real friends who are real with her, you know, like, no, Bridget, that was stupid, or you should have done this, you know. It's really a cool group of friends she has.
I agree. And whenever she told them that Mock Dawsey said, I like you just as you are, they were hilarious because they were like, one of them was like, you mean not thinner or smarter or more successful? And then the other one goes, well, fuck me. And the other one goes, but you hate this person, right? And she said, yeah.
And then when they meet Mock in person, they go, you like her just as she is. Like, such jerks. Really? You had to tell them?
That was great. They add such a significant amount of comical quality to the movie, you know? They're so fun.
Oh, yeah. So, what are the parts, or were there any parts that you didn't enjoy of the movie? Oh my gosh, I can't talk. Of the movie, not the book.
So, yes, thanks for asking. My negative critiques for the movie are, it's wordy, wordy. It's a lot of talky.
Hold on. I thought the point of the invention of movies where you could hear sound, not just moving pictures from the 1920s, was so you could hear people talk. What do you mean?
Ha. Well, okay. What I mean is, it reminds me of, if anyone listening seen like Dawson's Creek or Gilmore Girls. I mean, it's not as bad as those overworded shows, but it's right under that umbrella. Like, a lot of talking kind of fast, really descriptive language and vocabulary. I mean, it's not that you have to be like super sharp and really super smart to watch it, but like I said, that's actually, I'll be honest, one of the reasons I had to watch it twice. It's so fast, there's so much, and I mean, I like that about it, you know.
Yeah.
But, and also the most unrealistic scene, maybe the only unrealistic scene I felt, was when she interrupted the announcement of one of her love interest engagements to another woman. Mm-hmm. And she automatically kind of regretted it, and she acted like she was giving a speech, like, to cover her ass for blurting out against the engagement, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, that part, everyone in the whole place was quiet for, like, way too long. It wasn't realistic. Like, to listen to her ramble and grab at straws to get out why she's being a roadblock at that moment in time.
Yeah.
And it was cringy and uncomfortable and just unbelievable, I think. What do you think about that scene?
Yeah, it was definitely cringy, like, what is she doing? You know, she thinks she's saying it in her head, I feel like, but she's actually saying it out loud, and she just keeps digging that hole like she's so good at. But as for the rest of the movie, I really enjoyed pretty much all of it because it was so nostalgic, you know, seeing all the old technology it was so common growing up, but now, you know, it's considered ancient. But the one thing I didn't really like, which was cringy to me unintentionally by the movie, was her mom. She would talk about Mock Dossie's ex-wife and say she was Japanese, such a cruel race. And it's like, why are you saying that? Like, it has nothing to do with the race, who she is, of the caliber of person she is, you know, like, it was just weird. And she said it like 3 times. So that was my offensive and unnecessary issue with the movie.
Yeah, and like I said, I watched it twice, and I do not remember her saying that. Like I said, it's a very wordy, and I will tell you right now, it's a little bit of an accent barrier with the British language, and I do know from experience, our other sister went to Britain when she was younger, and she told me there's different dialects of the British language, and this dialect was a little difficult to decipher what exactly they were saying, and they used all these words that some of them I didn't
like
hear
they
of,
use
but I could
the word,
put it together.
They use the word poofs. I don't know what that means, but it was like a negative.
Poofs.
But it was a negative thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've heard that before, but it's a British thing.
Yeah.
But
I mean, so I actually went to London a few years ago for work, and I could not understand someone talking to me at the bar when I was ordering a glass of wine. She couldn't understand me, and I couldn't understand her. So I think it's so funny. I just wish I could hear from another person's perspective, like, what do Americans sound like to other people? Because
I'm sure there's videos out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like how, you know, we sound different than people from, like, England or Maine or, you know, down south. You know, how we're the Midwesterners, we're nasally and kind of a mix of some different twangs. You know, I'm sure it's hard for other countries to figure out what the heck we're talking about.
Definitely. It takes time.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and rate the film. I'd give it a 4.5 or 4.5 stars out of 5. And Rotten Tomatoes, they score it 80% by critics and 81% by audiences.
I'm actually kind of surprised that Rotten Tomatoes had that. I thought it'd be higher, you know. It was such a good movie. And I remember generally when it came out, it was a super popular film. I mean, they made 3 of them, you know, so that's kind of surprising. But I think it was perfectly cast. The actors were all incredible, and I also give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars.
Okay, well, that's like a first, or maybe a second, that we agree on the rating.
Yeah.
But also, I've learned that Rotten Tomatoes, they're a tough critic company. Like, a lot of the movies I looked up, they gave it a 30% average, it seems. And I'm like, even some of those movies I know should be well above 75%. So, you know, because I'm a real critic now, or a reviewer.
Right? We totally count. Yeah, and we were actually supposed to, you know, originally review the movie Marry Me with Jennifer Lopez because we wanted something brand new. But I couldn't get it to work at my house, unfortunately, so we ended up choosing Bridget Jones' Diary. And I was honestly shocked that you agreed because I didn't know you would like it. And I'm so happy you did. I think the only other thing we ever agreed on was Crybaby. But this was, you know, surprising, and I'm so glad it was worth it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, one day I'll read another book. But, just kidding. But, seriously, I mean, I'm surprised you didn't know that this was our mother's favorite movie back in the 70s. No. But she watched it religiously over and over for months. That and Hairspray with John Travolta.
Yeah, I mean, this movie definitely brings your spirit up. I highly recommend it if you're feeling down or just in a funk. It's hilarious. And I really think a lot of women would be able to relate to Bridget and her romantic relationships, her body image of herself. You know, it just feels like that's you. Like we said earlier, it sounds so corny, but like Bridget Jones is me, you know. You've been there before, no doubt.
Yeah, very realistic.
Yeah.
So, well, only 3 more episodes for you all this season before we take a little break. So get ravished while you can.
Yes. Thank you so much for listening this week and every week if you have. Check us out. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter at Ravish Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this review.
And don't hesitate to leave a review and like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform.
Bye.
Thank you.